I was nervous that my speech was going to be a little bit long, so thank you, Chris. Where are you? Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight receiving this award. I'd like to first congratulate all of the other recipients here tonight. What a great night to be a part of. Thank you to the committee members for nominating and choosing me for this award. What a treat to have Gail Erickson, my volleyball coach, as my liaison as well. So it was great being in touch with her throughout this. I should probably start with my introduction of Bristol Athletics, which was Edgewood Little League softball when I was 10 years old, thanks to Bob Germain, my PE teacher, and my childhood friend down the road, Ellen Traverso, who begged me the day of tryouts, so just come play softball. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. So that was how I started softball. After starting softball, I got into basketball, where I quickly met Coach Floyd and Coach Monet. At 11 years old, my softball team, back to Edgewood Little League, needed a pitcher, so said, who wants to try it? I raised my hand. I was like, I'll give it a try. Little did I know where it would bring me. I was decent. I grew to like it. My dad knew nothing about pitching, so thankfully he didn't pretend to know, and got in touch with KP. Chris Peterson, which I'm sure everybody in this room knows who she is. I met KP and Dave Blandino at Greenfield for a pitching lesson. I had never seen fast pitch softball before and was scared for my life when Dave had me get in the batter's box to see her warm up. He was catching for her back there with no gear. And she instantly became my role model. Thankfully, she taught me a few things early on and truly got me started off on the right track. Mechanically, it starts young. Going on to Northeast Middle School introduced me to Gail Erickson, another PE teacher that would introduce me to yet another sport, volleyball. I fell in love during intramurals. She knew a little bit about softball pitching, so she gave me some pointers. I started playing travel softball by then and was pitching for my team, which means a lot of practice outside of actual practice. All year round. So I won't mention any names because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but there were numerous schools that got me into gym spaces so that I could practice. So thank you for all the coaches and custodians and principals, and you know who you are. And I helped that my mom was the school health aide at both Eastern and Northeast. At this point, I've honed in on the three sports that I loved and would play in high school. I want to put an emphasis on multiple sport athletes. I'm so thankful for growing up in a time where multiple sports were encouraged. These days there's a lot of sport specification and kids are playing one sport. But I strongly believe that it kept me healthy physically, mentally. It gave me a break from my sport of softball. So as much as I can when I'm working with my pitchers and players now, I encourage them and their parents to play other sports. And I think that's one thing that definitely the coaches here today, and the coaches that I cross paths with definitely encouraged, and they supported us in those other sports as well. High school, Bristol Eastern Athletics, I was fortunate to be coached by the coaches I had. Gail Erickson was able to take girls interested in volleyball that didn't have the luxury of starting at 6 and 7 years old because there wasn't a feeder program, and made us into volleyball players. State runners-up my junior year. She was tough, had high expectations, and pushed us. Coach Floyd and Mike Stokes, again, top-notch coaches. I'm not telling anybody in this room. 500 wins. You don't get that without a lot of dedication, a lot of time. Somehow, Coach Floyd, made us laugh, even though we were scared to death of him. We were running up and down the sideline, yelling up and down. But he challenged us. He challenged us every practice. He'd bring in guys or college players, friends, anybody, especially on weekends for practices. They were bigger, stronger, and faster than us. That was how we were going to get better. We ran practices against them, and it wasn't okay to lose. You don't lose. He taught us to never be complacent. As tough as he was on us, though, he was the first one to high-five us and jump up and down when we scored or succeeded in basketball. Jack Krampitz and Eddie Lodovico, moving on to spring softball. I have to start by saying I received a Facebook message from Coach Lodovico's daughter, Heather, congratulating me on this award and that her dad would have definitely loved to have been here tonight. You know, it's a perfect example of the type of people that live in Bristol, you know, being dedicated and, you know, and following people. Coach Krampitz joined us my sophomore year. Coming to us as a football and baseball coach, he had no idea what he was getting into with a bunch of girls. There was drama, there were tears, big personalities. Pretty funny side story. Although I didn't participate in this, there was one practice, our first real warm day outside on the field. A few girls showed up for practice in shorts and sports bras. Thankfully, Coach Lodovico and my dad were there because we almost lost a coach that day. They convinced him to stay, and a practice dress code was quickly implemented. We were state runners-up that year and went on to become state champs the following year. The coaching dynamic was simply awesome. They were great, positive role models and with a lot of humor and a lot of fun on the side. As you know, I think Chris mentioned earlier, to coach a bunch of girls in a sport is something. And as I finished out softball, I can't, you know, Kara Jandro, who was my catcher, wouldn't be standing here today, wouldn't have gone on and played college softball without her. She caught tens of thousands of pitches. And as anybody who's ever pitched before knows, that they don't get where they are without a great catcher. One of the main points I want to send home to all of the people in this room is how fortunate the athletes are at Bristol to go through this system. The support from the top to the bottom to top, it's a cycle. We come from supportive families and backgrounds. They get into sports. Coaches support all the athletes, no matter whether they're in their season or not. They came to games. I remember standing out on the pitcher's mound, and you know, the pitcher's mound at Bristol Eastern I knew quite well. And beyond the soccer field, you look toward, when it used to be in the back of the school, you look towards the school, and you know, you'd see as the game started, you know, was going to start on, you'd see, you know, Coach Floyd coming down, you know, coaches, Dr. Lyons, you know, everyone coming out to support, you know, us. So, you know, thank all the coaches for that. They supported us on and off the field. These coaches are teachers in our schools. They congratulate us in the hallways, getting us pumped for our big games. I can only hope that my two children have the truly inspiring people that I've been fortunate to have in my upbringing. It takes a village, and Bristol is a pretty cool village. I need to thank the fans, like Tim Gamache, who couldn't make it. He used to grab us, you know, 2 large coffees, and you know, he was at every volleyball, basketball, and softball game. He was on every umpire and ref up in the stands. You know, we could always count on him. You know, people in this town are lifers. You know, I think of coaches, you know, again, the Tony Floyds. I don't remember any other coaches. You know, you guys have been here for a long time. The reporters from Bristol, you know, the Bristol Press. I mean, we looked forward to, you know, reading the newspapers, seeing what the other sports were doing. You know, making sure that Bristol Central maybe, you know, didn't win that game, so we got an up on the on the standings. I went on and had a successful career in softball in college, doing what I loved. Without these coaches preparing me the way I did, there's no way that I would have survived at UMass. It was tough, both mentally, physically, and these coaches taught us life lessons. We worked hard, we hustled on and off the field, we were respectful, we kept our grades up, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat. I left college, moved back to Bristol, and was fortunate that my first 2 pitching clients were Bree Gleason and Sarah Plourd. You can't get much better than that. And this is where I start to feel those proud coaching moments that I know many of you feel, and why you do what you do. These girls are on and had successful high school careers, college careers, and are now coaching collegiately. So finally, there's a table here with some pretty important people. The Houle family was introduced to me back in my sophomore year of high school. In typical Bristol fashion, I was going out to support some other sports and came across Rob Houle at Bristol Central during a wrestling match. You have to be a pretty dedicated fan to sit through those long wrestling competitions that lasted all day on hard bleachers before they made seats. Anyhow, we started courting each other outside of Mr. Benoit's math class as Mr. Benoit he was wrestling with Mr. Benoit. So the rest is history. He followed me around a softball field, and he still is following me around a softball field, chasing our kids around while I give lessons and coach. His family, Bob and Mary and Eleanor and Rita, they come to everything they can. They came to every big match, every big game, all while chasing their own 3 boys, which played 3 sports themselves. 2 of my 3 siblings are here tonight supporting me once again. Our family vacations turned softball tournaments, and family dinners were made a bit later, yet they were always there. My brother-in-law's here, another Bristol guy. He started dating Michelle in 6th grade, in my 6th or 7th grade. So that's a long time. As aside, my Bristol relationships between my siblings and my husband's siblings, there's 7 of us. 4 of us married high school sweethearts from Bristol. Not to mention Rob's parents were high school sweethearts. My parents met in high school. So I think as I see a bunch of the families and people here and people that were my years in high school, Bristol's a pretty cool place. You meet a lot of great people. And my parents, my mom was a taxi service. Now with 2 kids of my own, only 2, I don't know how she did it with 4 of us. I live on Peapod and Amazon these days, but our house ran because of her. There was always a hot meal. There was no such thing as going out to eat and getting fast food. It was home cooked. She didn't miss a game, all while getting 1 or 2 kids to where they needed to go. Not to mention having her at school, basically from middle school on, was pretty good. I couldn't get away with much, but I think it worked out pretty well. My dad shifted his focus once I started playing sports. The days and nights down at Edgewood Little League prepping fields, because the coaches and dads were the grounds crew. All the way up through high school, where he was Jack Crampett's right-hand man on the field. He didn't miss a single game, a single volleyball match, basketball game. He was the prime example of working hard and being dedicated. Thank you for always being there. This family is what Bristol was and continues to be, and I couldn't be more proud. I talk about my Bristol experiences all the time. Thank you for all the fond memories and life lessons.